Hey y'all, welcome back to Reddit to Wire. Well, we're finally here. We've gone through our 4 elements of handicapping: form, class, speed, and pace. And now we're ready to make our final determinations about the Derby contenders. So let's away. Okay, last section is final selection. So we're going to look to see whom of the contenders meet the guidelines for selection from our 4 corners of handicapping analysis. So let's take a look. Forte, he is an A in form, an A in class, an A- in speed. We noted that. And a little bit of a regression in the Florida Derby. And pace is A. He leads in both average and sustained pace. So he is a definite use, though we're not quite sure he's ready to make another move forward. But what he's doing right now is commensurate with Derby competitor and contender, I think. Angel of Empire, form A, he's been steadily improving. Class, he has the pedigree and back class to qualify him. Speed, he's trending upward, which is most important. And pace is B+. He has progressed steadily, and he has the right type of progression that you absolutely want to see. He's a definite contender we're going to use. Tapit Trice, form, still some issues with the mental aspects of racing and the gait, and we don't know how he's going to react, being a little fragile mentally in a big crowd. So that's why he gets the minus, as we noted. Class, connections, pedigree, everything. He definitely, this is what he wants to do, is 1.25 miles. Speed, he's trending upward, including the Bluegrass Stakes, where he got a career high, so he is definitely moving in the right direction there. Expect a top effort next time. Pace A-, just because the Tampa Derby was a little funky, and he still has tactically. I still have a little bit of concerns about his tactical speed. He's kind of a straight ahead runner, but all the tools are there, and he's a definite use. Couldn't leave him off the ticket. Absolutely. Derma Sotogake, the Japanese import, form A-, from all accounts, is poised and ready to be a competitor here, has done nothing wrong really, and had a nice win in the UAE Derby on the front end. Class B, mainly because we're not sure how they stack up against the Americans and what he has been running against, but we're pretty sure that he fits. Speed-wise, we're not overly certain. We can only guesstimate, but it looks like that he meets the speed criterion, and the pattern indicates he's probably going to run another good race. Pace is again, we had to estimate but pretty sure, judging by the hand timing, that while it's not completely accurate, we do believe that he matches up pace-wise, so he's a use. Practical move, he's got good form. He's done nothing wrong as far as running wise. He's won his only 2 races this year. We're a little uncertain about who we beat, though. That's why class, he gets a little bit of a B-. In pedigree, there's some questions there. Speed, he's got back-to-back 100 buyers. We're not sure that he's going to go past that. In other words, because of the distance, it's more than likely you're going to get a regression off of that, and he already started to in his last race. So speed is he gets an A because he hasn't done anything wrong, and he's got 2 100 buyers, but not expecting a big effort in the next race because of the distance. And that's why pace, he gets a C because he is starting to regress with his final fraction, and I think that's more an indication of the distance than it is anything else. So while he's on the fence, he's probably going to be more of a toss. Two Fields is also on the fence. His form has been pretty good, albeit one of his best efforts, or his best effort rather, was on synthetic. Class-wise, he looks pretty like he's okay, but there might be a little bit of distance questions from his pedigree and basically his performance. Speed-wise, he looks a little bit of a cut below. I know he got a 101 buyer, but that was on synthetic. He is trending upward, though, and we're expecting that he can make a move forward. Whether or not it's going to be good enough to contend, that's really the bone of contention. And consequently, pace he gets a C because his dirt form was indicating his last fraction was, while progressing, probably isn't going to be good enough to be a contender. However, this one's a fighter. He always seems to find his way into the money. And for that reason, just on guts, he might be able to get himself into the race, particularly if there's not a lot of pace. So he's on the fence. I lean towards toss, but he's on the fence given the likely pace scenario. Hit show, he's another one we're kind of on the fence with. I know it says use, but I could go either way with him. Form, he hasn't done anything wrong, but he didn't face much in New York. Class-wise, again, he's got the pedigree. There's no issues there. Just kind of wonder about, since he hasn't beat anybody really of note, we're not sure that he's going to be stack up against the top contenders. And remember, he did scratch from the Southwest States in Arkansas to avoid Arabian Night, and they sent him to New York instead. Speed-wise, his numbers seem to be a little bit of a cut below, but he may be able to put something together, a slight move forward. Probably won't be good enough in that fashion. And pace-wise, yeah, he's doing okay. I mean, he's trending in the right direction, but I'm just not sure it's going to be good enough. I think he's going to be one that kind of hangs around, and he's got the possibility of getting into the bottom of the exotics. So, but I haven't made a final determination. It's either fence or use with him. Not a complete toss yet. KINGSBARNS, I'm on the fence with too because we just don't know what to make of him, and it'll have to be based upon his odds and the determination of the pace. That's the two most important things. He hasn't done anything wrong. He's undefeated. But that Louisiana Derby, really don't know what to make of it because the pace was so slow. So he gets a C+. Class-wise, pedigree's not going to – the distance isn't going to be a problem at all for this one. Just wonder if he can compete with some of the better horses. Speed-wise, he's so far in 95. That won't be good enough to win this race, but we're not overly certain that he's going to take a step forward, so he gets a B. And pace, again, it's mainly because we can't really determine what his actual pace numbers are based on that last, the Louisiana Derby. The pace numbers prior to that showed the kind of numbers that a young 3-year-old would get his first time around 2 turns. And I'll believe that he is on the way up and progressing. We're just not sure how much that's going to be. And we don't know how he handles getting dirt kicked in his face or getting really challenged either. So there's a couple of questions about him. But he's more likely to be a use than on the fence, than toss rather. But he could go either way. MAGE is another one who's undefeated, 3 straight starts. Hasn't done anything wrong. We saw that big move in the Florida Derby. If they timed it a little better, he just might very well have won that race. He's got the pedigree pretty much for the 1.25 miles. That shouldn't be an issue. His buyers have been a little light. We're expecting him to take another step forward. Whether or not it'll be good enough, we're not sure. And pace-wise, he's kind of borderline, but expecting, since he is trending upward, there's a good possibility that his numbers will improve at the 1.25 miles. And he is an April Fool also. We have to keep that in mind as well. The other thing is, if the pace is moderate, which it very well might be, I think that gives him a better chance to stay in the race. And but regardless, everything points to him having a pretty good race, so he's a use. Verifying, he another one who's been competitive. He got great bluegrass stakes. The biggest problem for him is that I think that is the best he can do, and it's not likely he's gonna build on that with another better effort. He's likely going to regress. That's the speed pattern. Pace-wise, he's just a hair below. He's pretty much right about there, but a little bit under. If the pace is soft, he could stay in the race a little longer. That's what puts him on the fence for me. But in form, he had that lousy Rebel Stakes. We don't know what the hell happened there, but he did follow up with a good Bluegrass. So verifying he's a good horse. I'm just not sure a 1.25 miles is what he wants. It'll be basically odds and pace dependent whether or not he's a use. DISARM is another one on the fence. Just a weird training pattern. The fact that they're rushing him along a little bit. We don't know what to make of that Louisiana Derby. We don't know what to make of that Lexington either. So he's definitely got the class to be in this race. He's got 2-turn Derby pedigree all day long, great connections. We're not quite sure if he's going to take it another step forward, and if so, if it's going to be where he's going to be fast enough at this stage of the game. So that's a bit of a question. And consequently, pace is as well. Because of the Louisiana Derby, really can't determine what kind of strides this one is making. So I believe he has the class and whatnot to belong in the Derby, and it's just really hard to know if he's going to if he's poised to make another move forward. He's in the right hand, Steve Asmussen, to get him there, but it'll be odds dependent for me, and it'll also be we'll have to gauge the pace before I think about using them. So I'm on the fence with this one. Reincarnate, I'm leaning towards just tossing. Form-wise, he's been underachieving or he's just not good enough, one or the other. Class-wise, he's, pedigree-wise, I think he's pretty close to belonging here, but I have my doubts a little bit, particularly on the bottom end. Speed-wise, he seems to be a cut below. I don't know that he's got another move forward in him. If he does, it probably won't be fast enough. And pace-wise, his numbers really haven't stacked up at all. And so for those reasons, the only way I could conceive of using him is if word comes out that he's going to go to the lead. And that's one time where if he can slow the fractions down enough that he might be able to hang around. But right now, from what I've seen, he looks more like a pretender than a contender. So he's on the fence, but I'm leaning towards tossing. Rocket Can, as I've mentioned, he's a good horse. I think he's maxed out for now. And his best right now isn't good enough. That may change later in the year. He may do some growing up. He is an April foal. But right now, from what we've seen, I think he's a cut below. Is it possible he could back into fourth in the Derby? If he does, he's going to beat me because I think the odds are going to be a little shorter than they ought to, and I think others are more likely to be more prominent. So he's a toss for me. Lord Miles is kind of a wild card. I think he's got the pedigree and the class to be in this race, and I know his form. He has been slow to develop, but he is developing, and that last race was a pretty good indication, the Wood Memorial that is, that he is on the right track. So another step forward puts him as an exotics candidate. I don't think he's necessarily a win candidate, but I think there's a lot of things to like here, and you're going to get a price. So he's one that I might consider. We'll see how he trains, but he's one I'm definitely thinking about, probably will use underneath. Sun Thunder is he just seems to have stalled in his progress. He's a deep closer. He needs pace. That's really the only reason I would consider using him, is he can suck up for third or fourth because he'll still be running. As far as being a win candidate, I think that's highly unlikely. There's not going to be a Rich Strike this year. Excuse me. And he really doesn't stack up numbers-wise to do anything more than come in third or fourth underneath, clunking up. So I'm on the fence just for that reason for my ticket, but he's certainly not. I don't consider him to be a prime contender here at all. Continuar looks to just be a cut below. He doesn't have a turn of foot. His only redeeming quality is the fact that he can keep running, that he's a grinder. He's got stamina to run all day. So with a price, if you get one, you can think about using him underneath. But aside from that, I don't really see any other value to this horse. So I would lean towards tossing completely, and because you're probably going to get a wise guy value instead of the actual value you should. Raise CAIN, straight C minuses, C's and C minuses. He just isn't good enough, I think, is the bottom line when all things are considered. I know it says fence toss, but he's probably more likely a toss. Maybe using him on the bottom of the super is a possibility. That's about it. Confidence game is an enigma to me. He's been in the money 6 out of 7 times. That's the only thing I can think of to maybe think, well, maybe, you know what, he'll find a way to get into the money in this race. But every other indication tells me that this one is done. His dam is a sister to Zenyatta. There's a lot of class here. That's for sure. It's a great female family. But that Rebel Stakes, you go ahead and watch that again and watch how he didn't change leads. He was drifting out. He looked beat and exhausted. He was begging for the finish line. And I think that's the best that horse can offer. If he takes a move forward, I would be very surprised. He is going to be fresh because he's had such a long layoff. But he also might be a little rusty. I just can't get behind a horse like this, and I'm going to toss. JACE'S Road, I don't really see much other than being a pace factor. You just don't see the progression, don't really see any reason to use this one at all. And you can see really doesn't meet any of our criterion, save for a little bit on class because the pedigree's decent. But I can't see using this one, and JACE'S Road would be a toss. Skinner, on the other hand, has been just really excited about this horse. Every indication is this one's going to run a big one. He's been in good form out west. He's on a track that isn't conducive necessarily to his running style. We got to remember that. So I think when he gets into Churchill, he's got a little more ground, a longer stretch. There's a good possibility that this one will find a home. He pedigree matches up, Curlin and Malibu Moon. That's 2 turns all day. And speed-wise, he's in a right cycle. He got a better thoroughgraph rating than Practical Move or Mandarin Hero. That ought to tell us something because he lost ground in having to swing wide to close. And pace-wise, he is on the right progression, and he is definitely moving forward in this race. All systems are go. This is an absolute use. Hopefully we'll get a decent price, and he just might be the nice long shot play that we all like. So that's our group. Now let's take a look at our final assessment. Now when we say use, this is the core 6 horses that absolutely go on all our tickets. Forte, Angel of Empire, Tapit, Trice, Derma, Sotogake, MAGE, and Skinner. If you see a plus by their name, they're a win candidate based upon their performance. I probably would put one by Skinner and MAGE as well. I think they all have possibilities of winning this race. So that's our top 6 that we absolutely put on all tickets, and then it's just a matter of your preference. On the fence, these are horses you can mix and match in your tickets depending upon odds, race flow, a number of different things in your determination where you might want to use them, and then you toss the ones that you don't. That would be Two Phils, Continuar, Hit Show, Lord Miles, Disarm, KINGSBARNS, and Sun Thunder. And when I say use them, I wouldn't go past using like maybe 4 of them. So you have 10 total you use. You have to throw out half the field in the Derby. You just have to because it becomes cost prohibitive otherwise. And I'm not a big believer in hitting the all button on tickets. And so that's just my thing, though. Now, the tosses, these are ones that we're just not going to use, period. Verifying, Reincarnate, Raise CAIN, Practical Move, Rocket Can, Confidence Game, and JACE'S Road. And yes, I know there's some horses that are likely going to have short prices on there, but that happens every year. There's a lot of horses that get artificially low odds and artificially high odds. But what we don't want to have is too many horses on our ticket who are going to likely take a lot of money that aren't going to factor in this race. And to explain again, we've given reasons why we don't want to use like practical move or verifying. And it's just practical move is due for the distance. I think is going to be an issue with his running style. Being high energy on the front end early is not going to be good for him, particularly when he has a limitation distance-wise. And verifying, I think he ran his best race in the bluegrass, and I think that's the best he can do, and he's likely going to bounce off of that. So that's why we disqualified those two. So that's what we look like right now. So you've got 6 that you definitely want to use. You got 7 you definitely don't want to use. And then you've got another 7 that you can mix and match using your discretion. So that's our analysis from the 4 elements of handicapping: form, class, speed, and pace. And if anything, I've made, given you an idea how I'm thinking about it. But more importantly, hopefully our analysis has provided you some information that'll make it easier for you to make your own decisions. I know there's going to be horses we're not all going to agree on. And some of you have mentioned some ones that I'm not too high on that you think may have a better chance. And that's fine. Use your own judgment. But the idea is just maybe to have us all collaborate a little bit, give some insight, give some analysis, another country heard from, if you will, to help us all be right at the wire. That's what it's all about. We will have more coverage for the Derby later this week. We'll analyze the post positions. We'll probably come up with a final top 20 list. And then we will more than likely have a posting about betting strategy for the Derby, maybe some thoughts on how to do that, as well as the undercard. It should be a pretty good one, and we'll see if we can come up with a betting sequence for that, and we'll post it as well. So plenty of content coming up, and I hope you'll be with us for all of it. Of course, if you do like what you see here, please like and subscribe. We thank you for coming by, and thanks for being part of the community if you join. We would love to have you, and I love the way things are progressing. So we'll be talking to you later this week a number of different times. I know the nerves are starting to get a little frayed right now because we're getting closer. But hang in there with us for a little while longer. I'll talk to you soon, and until then, be well.